What I am about to share with you is not just theory pulled from abstract concepts or academic research that has no practical application to your daily life. It is a pattern I have observed and researched after years of studying the psychology of highly sensitive people, empaths, and emotional intelligence. A pattern that explains why some individuals seem to possess an almost supernatural ability to read others, while others remain oblivious to the emotional currents around them. And it explains why empaths transform in ways that seem almost supernatural to outsiders, why they evolve from the most broken souls into the strongest, most resilient individuals you will ever meet, why their journey from pain to power is both profound and inspiring. If you have ever wondered why you can sense someone's emotional state before they say a word, why you walk into a room and immediately know the mood without anyone telling you, why crowded spaces drain you in ways that do not seem to affect others, leaving you exhausted after what should have been a simple outing, or why you sometimes feel physical sensations that mirror what people around you are experiencing, a headache when someone near you is stressed, a heaviness in your chest when someone is grieving. This video will give you the scientific framework to understand what is actually happening beneath the surface of your conscious awareness. Researchers are only beginning to map the neurological basis of empathic sensitivity, but what they have already discovered is nothing short of remarkable. A window into the inner workings of the empath's mind. Studies using functional magnetic resonance imaging, or fMRI, have shown that empathic individuals often have mirror neuron systems that are more active than average, that their brains are literally wired differently from the majority of the population, making them more responsive to the emotional states of others. Mirror neurons are the brain's way of simulating others' experiences, allowing us to understand what someone else is feeling by internally mimicking their emotional state, by feeling what they feel. And in empaths, this simulation happens at a level that is both extraordinary and, at times, overwhelming, because they are not just understanding others' emotions. They are experiencing them as if they were their own, feeling the joy and the pain of those around them with an intensity that is difficult to describe. Today, we are diving deep into when an empath reaches the Rubedo stage. Everything finally makes sense, a moment of transformation that changes everything. And what you learn may fundamentally change how you view your gift, how you understand your past, and how you navigate your future, giving you a new perspective on the journey you have been walking. Research in developmental psychology, particularly the groundbreaking work of Dr. Elaine Aron on highly sensitive persons, reveals that empaths typically progress through 3 distinct developmental phases, each with its own challenges and opportunities. These are not just abstract concepts, not just ideas to ponder. They are observable, measurable patterns that explain why some empaths seem to thrive while others remain trapped in cycles of overwhelm and emotional burnout, why some find their power while others continue to struggle. Phase 1. The unaware empath. This is where most empaths begin their journey, often without any understanding of what is happening to them or why they feel so different from everyone else. You feel everything intensely, your emotions running deep and wide, touching every aspect of your existence. You absorb other people's emotions without realizing it, taking on their feelings as if they were your own, unable to distinguish between what belongs to you and what you have absorbed from others. You often mistake other people's feelings for your own, your confusion growing as you try to make sense of emotions that do not originate with you. During this phase, empaths are unintentional, emotional sponges, magnets for energy vampires, narcissists, and anyone seeking an emotional host because they are naturally receptive and giving, open to the needs of others. You give endlessly because you have not yet learned that your sensitivity is a finite resource that requires protection and replenishment, that you cannot pour from an empty cup, that you must take care of yourself before you can take care of others. The psychological mechanism at play here is emotional contagion without boundaries, a phenomenon that is both powerful and dangerous. Studies by Hatfield, Cacioppo, and Rapson on emotional contagion show that some individuals are naturally more susceptible to catching others' emotions, their nervous systems more open to the emotional states of those around them, more easily influenced by the moods of others. Empaths are at the extreme end of this spectrum, their susceptibility far greater than average, making them vulnerable to the emotional states of everyone they encounter. Without awareness, this becomes a significant liability rather than the gift it can become, because the empath is constantly overwhelmed by emotions that are not theirs, constantly drained by the feelings of others. Phase 2. The overwhelmed empath. This is the breaking point. the moment when everything becomes too much. It is where the cumulative weight of everything you have absorbed finally becomes too heavy to carry, where the dam finally breaks and the floodwaters rush in. Many empaths describe this phase as hitting an emotional wall, a point beyond which they cannot continue as they have been, a threshold that cannot be crossed without breaking. You might experience complete burnout, a state of total exhaustion that leaves you unable to function, unable to get out of bed, unable to face the world. You might experience chronic fatigue, a persistent tiredness that sleep cannot cure, a weight that never lifts. You might experience persistent anxiety, a constant low-level fear that colors everything, that makes every decision feel like a threat. Or you might experience depressive episodes, a profound sadness that seems to have no cause, that settles over you like a fog. The psychological term for this is empathic distress fatigue, a condition that is remarkably similar to compassion fatigue observed in healthcare professionals who give too much of themselves for too long. Research by Figley on compassion fatigue shows that individuals in caregiving roles often experience this phenomenon when the emotional demands exceed their resources, when they have given more than they have to give, when they have poured themselves out completely. But for empaths, this happens across all life domains, not just professional caregiving, because they are caregiving emotionally, often without conscious choice, in every interaction they have, with every person they encounter. You are caregiving emotionally, often without conscious choice, in every interaction you have, whether you want to be or not. This phase is where many empaths either break down completely or begin a profound transformation, because the suffering they experience forces them to change, to find a new way to live. The suffering is real and often severe, a crushing weight that seems impossible to bear, but it is also the forge in which your greatest strengths are developed, the fire that tempers your spirit. Phase 3. The integrated empath. This is the destination, the place where everything finally makes sense. Though the journey to get here is neither quick nor easy, requiring time, effort, and dedication, it is the goal that every empath is striving toward. The integrated empath has learned to use their sensitivity as a tool rather than being used by it, to harness their gift rather than being overwhelmed by it, to channel their power rather than being destroyed by it. They have established boundaries without becoming cold or disconnected, protecting themselves without losing their warmth, maintaining their compassion while safeguarding their well-being. They have developed what psychologist Dr. Judith Orloff calls healthy detachment, the ability to sense emotions without necessarily absorbing them, to be aware without being consumed, to care without being destroyed. The integrated empath can walk into a room full of tension and recognize the emotional atmosphere without becoming overwhelmed by it, can feel the stress without taking it on as their own. They can listen to someone's pain without taking it on as their own, can offer comfort without sacrificing themselves. They can care deeply without sacrificing themselves in the process, can give without losing themselves. This is not about becoming cold or indifferent, about losing the very qualities that make them who they are. It is about maintaining compassion while protecting your own well-being, about being both soft and strong, both sensitive and safe. The research on mindfulness and emotional regulation strongly supports this transformation, showing that it is possible to change your relationship with your emotions, to move from being controlled by them to being in control of them. Studies by Gross on emotion regulation show that individuals who develop reappraisal skills can experience emotions without being controlled by them, can feel without being overwhelmed, can be sensitive without being destroyed. This is the empath's ultimate upgrade, maintaining the gift of sensitivity while gaining the protection of boundaries, keeping the superpower while losing the vulnerability, being extraordinary while being safe. Understanding when an empath reaches the Rubedo stage, everything finally makes sense, is just the beginning, the first step on a journey that will transform every aspect of your life. The real power comes from application, from taking the insights we have explored and integrating them into your daily existence, from moving from knowledge to action. So here's what I want you to do with the information we have explored today, a practical plan that will help you move from understanding to transformation. First, identify your patterns, the recurring themes that have shaped your relationships and your life. Whether you relate more to the empath's journey, the avoidance struggle, the dynamics of manipulation, or the behaviors we have examined, awareness is your starting point, the foundation upon which everything else is built. Take 5 minutes right now and write down the patterns you recognize in your own behavior and in your relationships, the things that keep happening over and over again, the cycles that repeat despite your best efforts. Be honest about what you see. This is for your eyes only, a private record of your journey, a map of your inner landscape. Second, practice the pause, the moment of awareness that interrupts the automatic reaction, that gives you space to choose. Before reacting emotionally to any situation today, take one breath and ask yourself, is this my old pattern operating, or is this a conscious choice? That single moment of awareness, repeated consistently, changes everything over time because it creates a gap between the stimulus and your response, a gap where choice lives, a gap where freedom is found. Third, set one boundary this week, just one, a small but meaningful limit that protects your energy, that honors your needs, that respects your limits. Make it small but significant, something that matters to you, something that you have been avoiding. Notice how it feels to set that boundary, the sensations in your body, the emotions that arise, the fear and the relief. Notice how others respond, whether they respect it or push against it, whether they honor you or try to control you. This is your training ground for bigger shifts, a practice ground for the boundaries you will set in the future, a laboratory for your growth. Research on assertiveness shows that skills develop through progressive practice, just like physical muscles, that each successful boundary strengthens your ability to set the next one, that each act of self-protection builds your confidence. The psychology we have explored today is not just theory, not just abstract concepts that have no bearing on your daily life. It is a practical toolkit for navigating human relationships more effectively, understanding yourself more deeply, and creating the life you actually want, a life that is aligned with your values and your needs, a life that is truly your own. Use it wisely, with compassion for yourself and others, with integrity and respect, with the understanding that true power comes from within. Use it ethically, with integrity and respect, with the recognition that knowledge is neutral and only becomes good or bad through its application. And use it to build the connections that deserve your energy, the relationships that are reciprocal and nourishing, the bonds that sustain you rather than drain you. The Rubedo stage is the moment when everything finally makes sense, when the empath moves from suffering to strength, from overwhelm to integration, from being used by their gift to using it. It is the moment when they stop being a sponge and become a filter, when they stop absorbing everything and start choosing what to let in, when they take control of their own experience. It is the moment when they realize that their sensitivity is not a curse but a gift, that their ability to feel deeply is not a weakness but a superpower, that their journey through pain has given them a wisdom that cannot be learned any other way. And once you reach that stage, once you understand that your sensitivity is not something to be fixed but something to be honored, everything changes. You stop apologizing for feeling too much. You stop hiding your empathy. You stop shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. You begin to stand in your power, to trust your perceptions, to honor your needs, to protect your peace. You become the person you were always meant to be, the person who feels deeply but is not controlled by those feelings, who cares profoundly but does not lose themselves in that care, who has finally learned to protect their peace while keeping their heart open. Subscribe to Human Behavior Intelligence for more research-backed insights into human behavior, for videos that combine scientific research with practical wisdom that you can actually use, that help you understand yourself and others on a deeper level. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, someone who is still struggling with their sensitivity and needs to know that they are not alone, that there is a path through the struggle. Drop a comment with your biggest takeaway, the insight that resonated most deeply with you, the truth that spoke to your experience. And remember, understanding people does not make you cynical. It makes you effective, empathetic, and ultimately, more powerful in the best possible way. Because true power comes from understanding yourself and others, not from controlling them, not from dominating them, but from truly seeing them. See you in the next video, where we will explore another hidden pattern of human behavior that most people never notice, another layer of the mystery that is human interaction. Until then, stay observant, stay curious, and never stop learning about the fascinating complexity of human behavior. Because the more you understand, the more you can grow, the more you can peel, the more you can become the person you were always meant to be. And remember, the Rubedo stage is waiting for you. It is the place where everything finally makes sense, where your sensitivity becomes your strength, where your gift becomes your power. The journey there is not easy, but it is worth it. Keep going. You are closer than you think.